everyone. I'm Anna Jaramillo from the Moneris Mosaic program team, and I'm joined today by the wonderful Sabrina Cioffi, Director of Product Shared Services at Moneris.
Thank you for having me, Anna. I'm really excited for this.
All right, Sabrina, so let's get to know you a little bit better. Can you take us back and walk us through some of your background and the journey that has taken you to the role that you hold today?
Great question, and I'm probably going to date myself a little here. However, I do embrace the time and journey that it's taken to build me up to where I am today. I started in the call center as an authorization agent, and to be honest, I had no intention of being here longer than to get me through school. However, there was an instant attraction and curiosity of payments and how things worked in the acquiring space, and really odd to say, but I felt at home with the people I worked with. I then quickly moved into various senior roles and worked my way into a manager role in the major merchant call center, or the national call center at that time. I then felt I conquered the customer space and wanted to step into more of an enterprise role, where I found something within the project management office, which I held for about 14 years. It was amazing. It was a very amazing experience. And I was able to obtain the exposure to every business team across the organization. And that's where I gained most of my industry knowledge. And I'll be honest, many don't know this. However, that role that I applied to was a lower grade, and I knew that I wanted more exposure, especially into the enterprise, and decided that to get my foot in the door, I had to do that. And then I would just work really hard to excel myself, which I did. And that is when I knew I wanted to conquer something else. I wasn't very versed in product, and that was my next feat. And lucky for me, I had an opportunity to start with a new team within product. And for a little while, I was an individual contributor. And then 9 years later, I'm so happy that I was ambitious enough to step out of my comfort zone, because I went from that individual contributor to scaling a team of 5 team members then to now a functioning product operations team in the organization, with a product delivery center of excellence and 4 shared services teams with approximately 40 team members.
No, that's incredible. And I love that you use the word conquered, because it sort of brings us back to where we initially chatted, and you talked about where there was a moment that you had to sort of flip the switch on your confidence and really conquer sort of yourself and own that. And so I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about those moments where you felt like you conquered or took control of your career, and what people or situations or experiences sort of helped you shift that mindset.
Great question. I'll be honest, and with a little vulnerability, this took me a minute to recognize in myself and to change my mindset. We always have people around us, but it's the people you intentionally surround yourself with that helped me flip that switch. I recognized that there were people in my corner, what I call cheerleaders, but your mentors, your network, people that challenge you and allow you to grow. And as I grew in different roles, it was a constant cycle of learning new, conquering, cycling again, learning new, and conquering. But I recognized I was caught in this perception with some individuals who only knew me for a fraction of my journey, and it took too much space in my mind, and it curved how I saw myself. And I do have a lot of aspirations, and I really had a heart to heart. I believe in self-reflection with myself, and I knew that I wasn't done in my professional development. And I started to piece all those experiences together with those individuals that are in my corner, my mentors, coaches, and people I looked up to professionally. And my confidence grew, and I trusted my value and what I brought to the table. And really what works for me in this, and what made me flip that switch and allows me to conquer, is that I'm mixed with the right people, and I know where I want to go, and I work with intention, never looking back. It's all forward and upward.
I love what you said about the cheerleaders, because I think it's so important to have those people in our corners when maybe we don't have the best narrative about ourselves, to really remind us of our value in case we're experiencing imposter syndrome or when things just get a little bit heavy. I remember when we first chatted that you have had so much experiences of self-advocacy. And so particularly being a woman in a male-dominated environment. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about how that self-advocacy has become something that you bring to your work and something that you leverage when you promote our technology and our products. So tell me more about that.
I do take this back to my early days in my childhood. I grew up, for the most part, in a traditional Italian household. Both my parents immigrants, and life for them was about working and family. My parents were more progressive in their thinking, as they wanted to bring in the Canadian culture into our household. And as the only daughter, they really encouraged self-advocacy. I could do anything and everything and use my voice type of mentality. Whatever I put my mind towards, go for it. If I wanted to learn how to change the oil in a car or change a tire, I was under the hood with my dad and learning all of this. I had no barriers. I also grew up with two brothers, and they taught me how to be mentally tough and to have a thick skin. And with them is really where I learned to use my voice. Now let's fast forward to being a working woman and leader in tech. And all my early day lessons are now allowing me to be that leader. I am constantly working at it though, and constantly evolving. And you have to be confident in a room full of very smart technical individuals. And again, go back to my early days. It's the understanding of the value and embracing learning and using your voice through growth and even adversity. And I take everything as a learning and an opportunity to do better.
No, and having that growth mindset and that resilience is so helpful in this environment. I also remember us chatting about your energy and your personality, and that this is something that you've had to learn to navigate in this tech environment, and that I imagine you had to learn to navigate too as you were growing up as the only girl with two brothers. So, can you tell us a little bit about how inclusion plays a part for you in your work?
100%. For those that know me, really know me, they know I'm an early riser and I got big energy. And I'm very passionate about something. You'll know it, you'll feel it. Obviously, always professional, but my passion and drive fuels my ability to put things into action and really get things done. If someone, and I'm joking, but if someone does say to me, like, Sabrina, your energy is a little too much, I'll let them know, like, come chat with me after 3 then, when the energy kind of fizzles out, but always open to a conversation. I've never had an issue with inclusion or how my big energy comes into play. Actually, I'm always my authentic self. And I'm honest, I'm transparent, I'm positive. And I have been told a number of times that it is something that people actually find contagious. So I take that with some big value for sure.
No, and I think that's such a big lesson of there's a way to create space for others just by being your full self. And so I love that you shared that, because sometimes it's that allows people, or that gives people permission to show up as their authentic selves as well. So as someone that's had such an amazing experience of personal growth, and you've achieved career success in your current role as a director, what are some things that you have done to empower other women and other people that might want a career similar to yours? Or what about advice for leaders and people in a position of power and influence?
I encourage other women to push themselves, to really reflect and understand what they want and where they want to go, and work with intent to get there. I also encourage building a network. I share, and I believe building up a network is really important. And I do share tips on how to do this. A lot of individuals don't know how to even take that initial step to do that. And so I'm always open and supportive if someone reaches out and asks me to mentor them. I participate in a number of mentor programs, and I also give feedback. And I'm always asking people if they're open for feedback and see where it goes. But I'm also open for feedback, because I think having that growth mindset, you have to have a two-way communication. And I think having that feedback it just continues our growth. My energy and experience allows me to participate and have these great conversations. And I do encourage other leaders who are in a position of influence to pass on their successes and how-tos to any up and coming individual. I really found the importance of that midway through my career, and I wish I would have learned it earlier on. But I know it's never too late for any of it. I really do enjoy seeing people break their barriers and take advice and build themselves. It's one of my biggest joys that I get from being a woman in leadership and seeing people conquer their goals.
I love that. Thank you so much for that final message, I think, for leaders and for people about generosity and knowledge sharing. And thank you so much for your generosity and sharing your story with us today.
It was awesome being here. Thank you, Anna.